All right, I'm gonna do a video of responding to comments. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. This is kind of fun. I've said many times, my YouTube channel is a place where anybody can express their opinion. I don't censor anything unless it's just like gibberish and if there's a lot of expletives and like crude, crass language in it, I'm gonna delete it because I know I have kids who watch the channel. But other than that, you can say whatever you want. You can express a negative opinion about me or what I'm doing. That is 100% your right of free speech, and I value that. I respect it, and I'd rather leave the comments up there for the most part. So one thing I've just realized is that I can't use YouTube Studio on this iPad, which feels like a new iPad to me still, but apparently it's a few years old and no longer has the software update that will run, that YouTube wants you to have to run YouTube Studio. So I'm gonna be right on YouTube, clicking on the videos themselves. I've gotten a lot of longer comments lately, and it actually kind of corresponds to posting longer videos. I have a bunch of like 30-40 minute videos up of me talking a little bit and learning by jamming, where I put on music and jam, and that's the only way I've been learning drums at all. The comments I used to get kind of just were very short, said like, "You suck," and I would respond to them and be like, "Yes, that's correct. However, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing." These comments are much more thoughtful. They kind of say you suck, and then they explain in detail why and what I could do to get better. And I'm kind of joking, but like when you boil it down, that's kind of the message in some of them. But a lot of them are really intended to be helpful, and it's kind of interesting how the gradients go there, because almost everything is some form of constructive criticism, ranging all the way from very constructive to just criticism. And it's kind of fascinating how just the approach of that person, how they word the comment, what their intention seems to be, can matter so much on how it comes across. But without further ado, let's just read some comments. I'm going straight through them. I don't even know what they're gonna say. I've skimmed a few of them over the last few days, but I really don't know what these comments are gonna say. So we're just gonna find out. Hey everybody, welcome back. Cool, I'm gonna turn the volume down so that I can just see these comments. Comments 3. I remember this one. It says, "Okay, I am subscribing because I have been playing the drums off and on since I was 13, and now I am 67 and still learning. First off, my advice is you need to step back a bit. You are playing a song well over your ability and understanding of basic principles. So first, if you want to learn by playing to music, which is fun for sure, then pick something easier so you can learn your timing, build up your stamina, learn what dynamics are, etc. I would recommend some good, solid, basic rock, like Creedence, for instance. There is some good drumless music as well that you can record yourself to and see if your timing is good. Next, tune your drums a bit better. There are lessons on this platform. You will sound better for sure. Finally, watch some on how to hold the sticks. In other words, I think he meant, in other words, don't do all the mistakes learning that I did because I wasted a lot of precious time. Keep at it. I will be watching." I have to say that this person, Bach 2998, is exemplary as far as how to write a constructively critical comment. I'm actually a little bit distracted by seeing myself in that video, so I'm gonna scroll up so I don't. But he nailed everything that goes into giving good advice. If someone wants to listen to advice at all, they're gonna listen to that advice because he related it to himself. And actually, I want to speak to you also if you're watching this video, because you said you're following along. If you're watching this video, thank you for that really genuine, thoughtful comment that you took time to write out. and you expressed yourself really well. You related it to yourself, and you shared this really meaningful thing that you wasted precious time, and you want to use your experience to give advice to someone else who's learning and help me not do that. And that's a really good incentive. Like, you couldn't have put a better incentive out there for taking your advice. And then ends with the keep at it. I will be watching. Really positive, encouraging ending note. As far as the advice, I pretty much agree with it. And I think that these are really good pieces of advice. Do some basic rock, Creedence Clearwater, tune your drums better, watch some videos on how to do it. Those are things I probably should do and probably will do. I'm gonna save sharing why I haven't done some of those things for a later in this video, later in this response, because I just have so much respect for what you said, what this person said, how you said it. And I just want to acknowledge all those are good pieces of advice. So thank you. Let's move on to the next one. This person, Fat in Me Girth, said, I suggest you listen to the song a few times, then play along. Concentrate on the backbeat. You'll notice there aren't as many fills as you're trying to throw in. Listening is half the battle. Also good advice. Listening is really valuable. Listen to the song a few times, then play along. The interesting thing is that's just kind of the antithesis of how I've approached it all along, which does not mean that he's wrong. It does not mean you're wrong, Fat in Me Girth. It may mean that I've been wrong and I've been doing it wrong the entire time. One of the reasons I do it that way is because I am posting all of this on YouTube. My goal is as much to build a YouTube channel as it is to learn how to play the drums quickly or effectively. Although if I did learn more quickly, I might have a better sell for my YouTube channel. I will admit that. I get this comment a lot that I'm doing too many fills, and I'll be honest, it's because I get bored just playing a steady beat, but I also will admit that I'm not really good enough at it to make that my excuse. Listening is important. One thing that I do is sometimes remember to stop playing altogether in that song, listen for a minute, and then actually try to start playing again intentionally instead of randomly. Good advice, thanks. Moving on to the next comment. This person says, J Spears 7245, hey, good job. You have too many drums, go ahead and modify to a 4-piece kit. That's really interesting advice. I actually did take some similar advice early on in the process. I didn't modify my kit, but I started playing on only the snare, the, what do you call these things? The hi-hat and the bass drum. And I played only on those drums for a while. And the results were really interesting. It was actually really fun. It was really good. I felt like I made a lot of progress more quickly at that time. But then I naturally wanted to start incorporating other drums. And I may have gone overboard and beyond where I need to be on that. So good advice. I think maybe I'll try that, keeping it down to just those drums. That might also eliminate the need to tune. I don't feel like tuning tonight. I've had a long day. I don't feel like tuning my drums. I know I should do it. I don't feel like it. Let's move on to some others. I want to get to some of the ones that were more critical and more aggressive, because I'll be able to respond more aggressively to those and it will be fun. But I'm not going to, like when you're that respectful in the way you address me, I'm not gonna go overboard, because I just have so much respect for people who have the kindness and the patience and the intention to give that kind of really intentional feedback and criticism. Clapton, Let It Rain. This is a short, and we can maybe hear it for a second. Cool, so that's kind of it. And the comment is, stick with the beat, bro. Flourishes and fills and rolls will come later. The beat is the priority and the backbone of all jams. I'm really in a mood, I guess, where I want to just hear all of the comments and not have a contradictory statement for them. So I'm going to just kind of assume in most cases that these comments are right or that I can get something out of them. And I think that what's fair about this one is that the beat is the priority, is the backbone of all jams. And I'm curious, my knee-jerk reaction is to say, well, I'm going to get more views with fancier stuff. I don't actually know if that's true. It would be interesting to post a whole bunch of shorts where all I'm doing is sticking with the beat as simply as possible. Nothing fancy, nothing exciting at all, but maybe better quality of drumming as a result. And do I get the same kind of views? Do I get the same kind of increase in subscribers? Maybe it would be better. So I'll think about that. Heart, easy target. Cool. Comments are, try lowering your hi-hats and raise your snare. I've gotten that one a lot. And I've had these guys at all sorts of heights based on all sorts of comments. I don't think it's a bad idea. Try it. Why not? Raising the high, or raising the snare especially. I don't know why I actually have the snare so low. To lower the hi-hat, I would have to move this drum, which is fine. It's just an extra drum sitting on a random wooden stand. So yeah, I could move it. Let's do that. I'll do it. I'm not gonna do it right now. I'll do it in my other video. But cool. And then let's see what the reply is. Oh, there's more. There should be a 6-inch gap between your hats and snare. I should be fact-checked on that number. That's pretty cute that this person said 6?inch gap. I should be fact-checked. That's really humble. I appreciate that. Snare should be roughly waist and on less of an angle. Okay, so I could bring it up about 6 inches to get it waist height. Sounds solid. Appreciate it. Thanks. One reply. But also, you should be able to drop your stick from your knee and it hit the snare. I'm not sure exactly what they mean, like, because right now, technically, I could drop it from my knee and it will hit the snare. If I went any higher, actually, let's say I'm playing the bass drum, I went any higher with the snare, it would hit the rim. So according to that standard, if I understand it right, my snare is at the right spot or kind of the highest it should be. I think it's worth playing around with it a little bit. Come on, where are these aggressive comments? I want to have an argument with someone. Cool, let's go down to this one. 5 comments on day 210. Also 5 likes. Let's see, comments. You should jam to some AC/DC. That's from Acoustic. Cool name. I will not jam to AC/DC. I hate AC/DC. There's like one song that I like. Back in Black is acceptable. And there's probably a couple others that are acceptable. I just don't like AC/DC. But I get where you're coming from. I've heard that band recommended multiple times. That's basic 4/4 time. So here's his reasoning. Darn it, I really wanted to argue with this guy, but his reasoning looks solid so far. That's basic 4/4 time, and the tempo remains the same, which would help with your meter. Worry less about fills and more about keeping time. Fills will come with time and be easy once you develop your meter. I'm self-taught and been playing on and off for quite some time. And yes, you may want to adjust your tom heights. You'll save on sticks. That's why I broke one of the sticks, I think, hitting the rim of the tom. Another tip, try and keep the same amount of attack when playing rhythms and fills. If your fills are louder than your beats, that's how you know your attack is not even. That's the first time someone has said that, and I find that so insightful. Thank you, Acoustic. There is a lot to learn and it will come. Just be patient and have fun. Great follow-up. Some constructive, practical advice, something to keep in mind. Why are my fills louder than my beats? That really sounds like something I could hone in on. And then ending with the just keep going, keep at it. Cool, I love it. Next one, keep it up, man. The stick broke when you smacked the rim of your tom, then the piece came flying off a few seconds later. See if you can adjust the layout of your kit to get the toms lower so you're not at risk of smacking the lower part of the rim so often. And this issue should go away. Cool. Smack the rim of your tom, okay? Either lift your throne to sit higher or lower the toms. The angle of the toms is fine, just the height is a bit problematic. Best bet is to look at some overhead and player's perspective images / videos of pros kits and see what they're generally going for in terms of layout, then try to adapt yours to benefit from those ergonomics. You'll find that people like to sit higher than you might think, and that their snare and toms are a bit less angled and toms generally lower. Good luck on your quest, dude. That one was, he gave advice, but the way he gave advice was so good that it didn't sound like criticism at all. It was just, here's what you can do. It didn't say anything like, you have yours to whatever. He just said, check out this, do this. Wow, awesome. The quality of comments here has been just like through the roof. That's RX120D, thank you. Vasta7791 said, this rules, thank you. FRBRTY12 said, groove, brother, just play the groove. Fills are the least important thing you'll ever play. Serve the song, and guitarists and bassists will love you for it. That seems fair. I'm not playing with guitarists and bassists right now. I'm not even really aiming to be a drummer in a band. If I was going to be a musician in a band, there's a couple other instruments I'd go for first. But I hear what you're saying, and really practical advice, especially if that were my goal. This one, okay, I can't wait to get to this one. Gastrine 11 said, stop making excuses for not having a desire or necessity to improve and be a better drummer. Self-teaching had one great downfall, and that is the teacher. I thought that was, I've read this one before. I thought he misspoke for a minute. I don't think he misspoke, or he had this layer of meaning that comes across not immediately. But the teacher being self-taught, the downfall is the teacher, because you are the teacher and you're not good, is the implication. Take a lesson, enjoy the process, and respect the instrument. Growth comes from knowledge. Stop the posting and spend the time engaging. You are starting to bore us. So I find this comment interesting because the first half is kind of compelling. Stop making excuses for not having a desire. I like that personal responsibility stuff, to be honest. Take a lesson. He's giving, and respect the instrument. I've been thinking about that respect the instrument statement for a few days. Because I can go back and forth on how I feel about that. The instrument can feel as if it takes on a life of its own, and that if I'm approaching the instrument with an attitude of respect, that can impact the process, if only because of the attitude that I'm bringing to it. At the same time, the instrument is a tool, and this is maybe not relevant, but really interesting statement I've heard once was, too often we love things and use people. We should love people and use things. This is a tool to use. I think that approaching it with some sort of attitude of respect, admiration, appreciation is probably a good thing. Ultimately, it is a tool to use, and I'm a lot more concerned about how I approach people than I am how I approach the drum kit. At the same time, the way I approach it can impact me, and maybe in some kind of small way, the people around me as a result. So that's interesting. Stop the posting and spend the time engaging. You're starting to bore us. Well, first, let's do growth comes from knowledge. I agree with that. Growth does come from knowledge. And knowledge comes from growth. I do think that's a little bit cyclical. because sometimes you end up doing something before you really know about it, and you pull knowledge from what you just witnessed yourself do. And there's different types of knowledge. There's head knowledge, there's muscle memory, there's people who know how to do things but couldn't explain how to do them or explain how they do them. And there's people who can both explain and do. So the array or spectrum of types of knowledge, application of knowledge, the gaining of knowledge, really interesting kind of. But stop the posting and spend the time engaging. You're starting to bore us. So that's where I just have to say, I don't know if you're a subscriber. You don't have to be a subscriber. If my channel bores you, you can leave the channel. One thing I'm going to pick out of this, and I'm not, I guess, in a mood to be really that argumentative tonight, but one thing I will pick out of this is that nobody speaks for the collective. Nobody speaks for everybody. So I might be starting to bore you, and if I am, that's valid, and you don't want to be part of my channel or follow along, that's totally valid. Feel free to unsubscribe if you're not getting anything out of this. I don't want, people watching who don't get something out of what I'm posting. But I'm going to assume that the majority of the 700 plus people are subscribed to my channel, and the 9 people who've subscribed since this video was posted must like something about the channel. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's what I have to say. Maybe it's the process. Maybe some people really like the process. Maybe some people are sticking with me despite the process, despite the fact they don't think it's the best process. Maybe they just want to be supportive. Maybe there's some little part of it that you do like. I don't know. But I certainly won't take one person's comment and assume that you're speaking accurately for every single person who watches the channel. So, and that's really all I have to say about that one, to be honest. I thought I had more to say about it, but I'm going to stop there. I'm going to read 5 more comments from one more video, and we're going to call it quits, even though I could probably just keep scrolling back and get a lot of comments I have never responded to. Comments 5. This person, Lauren Ostrukauskas, said, have been jamming with some people for about a year, and it is for sure the most effective way to learn. I think it's a very, very fun way to learn, and you're doing something that I kind of wish I was doing, which is jamming directly with other people. I do think that there's a lot more interaction and communication, musical communication that happens, and probably progress that happens when you're jamming with other people as opposed to tracks that are static. That track's going to sound exactly the same every time, which has a certain value. Someone else is keeping time, for one thing, but jamming with people is so fun, so invigorating. You bounce off of each other, you grow from each other's growth, and I think that's awesome. So good job for you, and thanks for sharing that. Next person says, I'm interested in what drum kit you have. All right, cool. This is PDP by DW, handmade by Remo in China. So the basic kit is this PDP kit. I don't really even know what that stands for. I assume it's an acronym. And that's the 4-piece drum kit. I've got a big tom, floor tom, 2 smaller toms. Tell me how they're tuned wrong. I know they are. Sounds terrible. Here's this bass drum. That is also PDP. And that's it. The snare is a piccolo snare, and to be honest with you, it was the cheapest snare that I could find used as I bought this kit. I bought the 4 pieces new. Everything else I bought used, just pieced it together, because when I bought it, I was scraping up the money to put myself behind a drum kit or in front of a drum kit, whatever it is. So the original pieces that I bought this cymbal that's on the bottom here originally. It has a bunch of holes in it, and it also has these fasteners that vibrate. I think that may be called a China cymbal, but I'm not sure. It might be even more elaborate than that. It has this sizzle. That was one of the original cymbals. Another original cymbal was this one. This is a crash. And it gives more of a crash with a stick. Oops. And finally, so this one, anyways, let's go through this. This is an Evolution. Let's see if it says anything else on it. Made ride. It just says ride 20/51 centimeters. Yeah, ride. I don't know what, I'm surprised it's called a ride. But that apparently is my ride cymbal. This is my crash cymbal. I've never really liked this crash a lot. It's AAX Studio Crash, 43 centimeters. I like it better now that it's stacked, to be honest. And then this is a Stag handmade 13-inch hi-hats, medium. And these were this was the final original piece that I bought. I also bought a cowbell, which I've since sold when I originally bought the kit. Some of the other things on this kit, there's a bunch of stacked cymbals here. There's 4 more above the crash. 1, 2, and then sandwiched right on that one, 3. It's really one sound. And then 4 on the top. So, and then there's this one over here, Zildjian, which is what I use as my ride now. And I bought all those. I was in Alaska. I saw an ad on Facebook Marketplace for a bunch of broken cymbals. So most of these are damaged in some way, except for this one. I don't think that's damaged. And I just stacked them up because, like, what else am I going to do with them? And then these 4, 3, I guess. These 3, 2 toms and a bass drum, which I set on the floor, which is kind of fun. I think here's the actual bass drum. Here's the one that's on the floor. And so these my mom found at a thrift store and gifted me. So that rounds out the drums that I have. But thanks for asking. That's cool. Appreciate the question there. This person said, find a good teacher, and this is Gastrine. Oh, he's the one who commented elsewhere too. He's the one I think I just had the most aggressive, which if you're not very aggressive, but the most aggressive comment I responded to was also this person, Gastrine11, said, find a good teacher and start taking lessons. I think you need to learn some basics. You're creating bad habits, so it'll take longer to try to learn. Very little return on energy. You need guidance. Honestly, I'm not gonna reply to that because all that might be true. And here's what I'll say. This next one's kind of funny. Here's what I will say. In all of that comment, it's good advice. As far as it goes, it's good advice. What you don't know as you're making the comment is that I work a full-time job. I also own a small business. I have been putting in 100-hour plus work weeks for a long time, holding that job for the steady income and also building my business. It's often a stretch to even sit down at the drums at all. I don't think it's a waste of my time and energy. I do think there's probably less return on energy and less return on time than approaching it in some other ways, but my schedule is not consistent enough to get a teacher. And to be honest with you, I might like my life a little bit better if I did make the decision to say, hey, I'm gonna have certain things scheduled, gonna build a routine for myself, and I'm gonna tone down or reimagine how I'm approaching this business that I'm building. And so again, I can't really knock the comment too much because it might be right and it might be spot on, and I might actually be happier if I took some of that advice. But as far as bad habits go, just go back and watch, my very, very early videos as opposed to my latest ones. The progress might be slow. I feel like this is a broken record. That's why I'm trying not to spend much time on it in this video. My progress is slower than it probably would be with a different method, and probably with some bad habits thrown in there. At the same time, I'm absolutely positive that I'm more proficient on the drums, more able to take what I hear in my head and put it on the drums than I was when I started. And I'll take that when I consider that I don't have to do anything at all. And, nobody really has to sit down and learn an instrument, take up a sport, take up a physical activity, like whatever. You don't have to do it at all. So doing it ineffectively is, I think, something to be more proud of than sitting on the couch and just vegging. But maybe there's something to be said for sitting on the couch and vegging. Maybe that's something that I could learn to do every once in a while. So, it depends on what you want in life. It depends on what you find fills your cup, I guess. Rest is important. Rest has value. So I'm not even trying to knock you and I'm not speaking specifically to you, Gastrine 11, but anybody. If you're sitting on your couch and what gives you rest and what recharges you is scrolling through some YouTube videos, and you sat here and watched mine for 32 minutes, I appreciate you. We may be in a symbiotic relationship here where you want that time to just chill, watch some content, think about what someone has to say, and I want that time to express myself on my YouTube channel and get some views. So I'm not going to knock anything. I'm not going to knock whatever it is you like to do, Gastrine 11. However you approach things, I don't know if you play drums or you just have advice about it, but however you do it, whatever you do, good for you. You're probably right in what you're saying, and at the same time, my life is just different than yours. It's different than my viewers, and I like everybody, kind of doing my best to make decisions about what fits into my life best, what makes sense for me. So that is what it is. Let's move on to the next comment. This one's about specifically, the video was about whittling drumsticks from an actual stick. So the person said, just in case you didn't know, humanity invented something called money. Seems like you already have some of it. That is a generous assumption of you. With said money, you can buy stuff like new drumsticks. This guy's name is Razgor4, in case anyone wondered. And then this is all caps. Please just get some actual drumsticks. Don't want to hate, keep up what you're doing, but please just get some actual sticks. It's not that deep. I kind of agree, like it's not that deep. It's not that big of a deal. I did end up buying these drumsticks, which broke the very first day I played with them because apparently I hit the rim of my toms. I agree, it's not like something to overthink, and I wasn't really overthinking it, to be honest. This is like, I guess, the most argumentative I'm gonna get in the video, the most directly confrontational, but I wasn't overthinking it. I was just thinking, hey, I'm gonna have an opportunity to buy drumsticks tomorrow, and I did buy drumsticks the next day after making this video. But today, I'm not going out, I'm not driving my vehicle to town, 20 minutes away, to buy drumsticks. So instead, what I need is a walk in the woods. That would probably be a good thing for me, and then I'm gonna sit here and whittle on that stick while making a YouTube video and getting closer to one of my goals, which is to have watch hours on YouTube. And those YouTube videos have helped me get closer to that goal. I do have a fair amount of watch time on those videos, especially compared to previous videos. I purposely, I thought about my goals, and I thought about the type of content I'm making, and I realized I need to make more long form content. Sitting there whittling a drumstick, perfect. I can talk while I'm doing it. It achieved my goals. So I don't think I really overthought that one. I think I decided to approach it from both angles. Like, let's try whittling the stick, but let's also buy new drumsticks. But I get where you're coming from, and thanks for sharing your thoughts there. Next, there's a reply to that one, which I hadn't seen yet. This says, to be honest, I like his philosophy here, just as Travis Barker uses heavy round material stuff to stop the rims, to stop the sticks from rebounding. I didn't know that. I'm not sure exactly what he means that he does, but that's interesting. I'd probably, if I ever have time, look into that at some point. So does he use a half-broken stick? I have no clue if it works, but he might find himself playing a lot better when he finally buys new sticks. Yes. Sometimes it's better to become good with terrible handles than already having everything perfect. I do like that, and I didn't really say that explicitly in this video, but I do like that mindset, and it was something I was kind of thinking, like, if you use less than ideal equipment to get something done, when you actually have ideal equipment, it's going to be so easy. So I do like what he's saying here, and I find it really interesting that he came up with that response. And that was Stephen Coops 6728. So thanks for sharing your thoughts, Stephen Coops. Anyways, there's that video. Thank you for watching. All of my viewers, subscribers, I appreciate you very much. You're helping me meet my goals. It means a lot to me. I hope I'm providing good content for you. If I'm not, then you're watching bad content. What are you doing? Thanks again. I'll talk to you later.